Hello, my friends. It's Reverend Judith Laxer from Gaia's Temple coming to you live over our YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. You know, I know you know, and I know, and we all know that everything in our world is heightened right now. This confluence of the pandemic, it's an election year, the Black Lives Matter movement. It's a very exciting time, and it's also a very volatile time. And hardships and difficulties and challenges like we are experiencing now, particularly over time, the prolonged experience of them and the uncertainty that comes along with it requires our faith. So you are in the right place here today. And I'm grateful that you've chosen to spend an hour or so of your time here with me and the virtual community of Gaia's Temple. So I'm going to follow instructions and say before we go any further, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have, I think, 78 subscribers. Once we reach our first 100 subscribers, then we get our own dedicated link. So hopefully after this service, another 20-something of you will subscribe and we'll hit that 100 mark. Thank you in advance for subscribing to our YouTube channel. So we're going to start by singing a song just to kind of get the energy moving, which is how we do it in Gaia's Temple. This is a beautiful Sufi chant that I learned many, many moons ago. And the lyrics are, we are opening up in sweet surrender to the luminous love light of the One. And I'm going to change the lyrics a little bit to suit our purposes here today. And we're going to sing, we are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We sing that twice through. And then the second line is, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening, we are opening. And of course, when we're all together, we can sing it and around, and it's beautiful. Once you catch on, please do sing along with me wherever you are. If you want to sing the other lyrics, counterpoints, so you can hear the round, feel free to do so. And it goes like this. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. One more time. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening up in sweet surrender to the radiant love light of the sun. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. We are opening. My dining room table makes a pretty good crumb, doesn't it? All right, we're going to move on now and create our sacred space. So if you would, wherever you are seated, make yourself comfortable. Maybe put your feet flat on the floor. Let's take a nice deep breath as we close our eyes and go within. Oh, and while we turn our focus inward, take a moment now and call all the pieces and parts of you to come home. And by that, I mean any part of your consciousness, any part of your awareness that is somewhere in your future, somewhere stuck in your past, distracted by anything. Ask all those pieces and parts to come home so that you can be here now. So let's take a moment and do that. Breathe deeply into that presence. And as you exhale one more time, begin to ground yourself to the energy of the earth by sending down a line of energy from the basis of your spine all the way down through the chair that you're sitting in, down through the building that you're in, or wherever you are, and deep down into Mother Earth. And imagine that that line of energy extending from your spine goes through matter as energy does, easily and swiftly, dropping down deeper and deeper and deeper into the earth. And with each breath, your big major taproot just burrows down further into our beautiful planet. Feel how she opens to receive your energy. And allow that grounding cord to settle down as deep as it needs to go within the earth so that you feel very grounded, very centered, very present. Send out smaller roots, reaching out and taking hold from this main taproot. And now breathe life and porousness into them as we begin to drink the energy of Mother Earth up, in and up, those smaller roots and that main taproot, knowing that what we're drinking in from the earth, from our beautiful Mother Earth, is unconditional love, deep nourishment, strength, sustenance, beauty, diversity, all the good things. And draw all that beautiful energy up, up, up. When it gets to your spine, let it transfer over there. Keep drawing that energy all the way up to your heart. And when she arrives there in your heart, let the earth rest there for a moment and take another deep breath, making more room for the earth as you hold her in your heart. Good. Now we'll look to the heavens and find the moon, and she is waning toward darkness, and she's in Aries today, the sign of Aries, fiery and charismatic. And we'll find the sun, and he is in Gemini, quixotic and intelligent. And draw those beautiful solar and lunar energies down. Imagine a silvery and a golden light pouring down from the heavens. Receive them through your crown and draw them all the way down through your head and your neck. They are making their way into your heart. And once more, when they arrive, take a deep breath to make more room for them. Good. Now all three of those cosmic energies, earth, moon, and sun, are there in your heart. And in a moment, I'm going to ask us to take another deep collective breath. And when we exhale, let's imagine we can push these energies straight forward out from our heart, outside our bodies. We'll imagine these energies swirling all around us, creating our safe and sacred space. And also knowing that as each of us do this, we connect with each other virtually over cyberspace. It's an energy and we can do it. And so let's do that now. Nice deep breath. And out it goes. In this way, we say we have stepped between the worlds. What is between the worlds is not affected by the worlds, but can heal and transform. And so we say, our circle is cast in perfect love and perfect trust. Blessed be. All right, so now we're going to sing in the elements as we do in Gaia's temple, beginning with this beautiful little crystal here in the north. Many of you already know the song. If you don't, you'll catch on pretty soon. And when you do, please join. So first we sing to the north, the earth in the north. Spirits of the earth, carry me. Spirits of the earth, carry me home. Spirits of the earth, carry me home to my heart. And to air in the east. Spirits of the air, carry me. Spirits of the air, carry me home. Spirits of the air, carry me home to my heart. And to fire in the south. Spirits of the fire, carry me. Spirits of the fire, carry me home. Spirits of the fire, carry me home to my heart. And to water in the west. Spirits of the water, carry me. Spirits of the water, carry me home. Spirits of the water, carry me home through my heart. And to spirit in the center. Spirits of the center, carry me. Spirits of the center, carry me home. Spirits of the center, carry me home to my heart. Beautiful. You sound great. And now for the invocation. So I'll read the line, and if you'll join me in unison on the Be With Us. Great Mother, in all your wondrous splendor, be with us. Amaterasu, Sun Goddess of Radiance, be with us. As the days grow long on the wheel of the year, be with us. Today we seek to become and then offer up the love light of the sun. Be with us. To allow our passion for equality to direct our actions. Be with us. To fuel the shine of our love that will heal and strengthen. Be with us. The beautiful light of justice. Be with us. We gather on this fine day to be in your presence. Be with us. Blessed be. Blessed be. Excellent. I have my notes here. Try to keep me on track. So I'm calling this service the love light of the sun. And I want to begin by saying that there is a great need. There's always a great need, but I think now there is an even greater need for really good self-care. I don't think it's a good idea for us to discount the effects of this exciting and intense and volatile time. And to really be extra careful, hyper vigilant, really, in caring for ourselves so that we can stay strong and we can stay healthy. And it's kind of become, for some reason, it's believed now that if we are engaging in self-care, that is somehow frivolous. And that it is, that means we're just pampering ourselves and that it's not really necessary. And I think that is incorrect. I think good self-care is not necessarily pampering. Sometimes self-care is pampering ourselves, but I think there's many ways to care for ourselves that aren't just frivolous. In fact, I don't think any true self-care is frivolous at all. And we need to take care of our bodies and our hearts and our minds and our souls. And this self-care is crucial now because we are very sensitive people. And the word sensitive has also taken on a very negative connotation. It seems somehow that if we admit or acknowledge just how sensitive we are, and we are, that somehow means we're weak. And I'm not quite sure how that got linked, sensitivity and weak, because when we're sensitive, it simply means that we can sense what's going on around us. Our senses are heightened. We can tell what is happening. And the things that we are sensing are very strong. And so the fact that we are sensitive actually means we have a strengthened ability. So it doesn't make us weak, but it does mean that we have to care for ourselves. We think nothing about caring for others that we love. And somehow we're the ones that always are at the end of the list. And I think because of these heightened times, self-care is really crucial. So I want to start with that. And if there's any way I could give you permission and in fact encourage you to take extra special good care of your heart and soul and mind and body, I'm doing it. This is the time. So let's go to where we are in the wheel of the year. We are rapidly approaching the Sabbath of Litha, which is spelled Litha. I've heard it pronounced a million different ways. I actually went online and Googled how to pronounce Litha, and I've heard it Litha and Lida. But then I saw an Irish pronunciation, and they say Litha, or at least in this, according to this particular site that I found. So I am going to pretend I'm Irish when it comes to Litha and say Litha. It is the summer solstice. It is the longest day of the solar year. And this year it falls next Saturday, June 20th, actually at 2:44 p.m. in the afternoon when the sun moves into Cancer. Gaia's Temple is holding our virtual Sabbath celebration at 7 o'clock that night. So next Saturday, 7 p.m., over our YouTube channel, we'll be offering a ritual celebration for you, for all of us to partake in, and hopefully you will join us. And so when it is the longest day of the solar year, of course, we have the longest amount of sunlight. We would like to think that would make it the warmest day of the year, but we also know in this time of climate change that we really can't go by the weather, because the weather patterns, in case you haven't noticed, are pretty erratic and aren't what they used to be. But until the earth kind of shifts on her axis, which hopefully won't be soon, we can still track the seasons by the light and by how long the days are, how short the days grow, how long the nights are, how short the nights grow. And so on the summer solstice, it is the longest day of the solar year. And the radiance of that sun is, well, it's magnificent. We're a sun worshiping culture, we know that. What I also find, and how I characterize the radiance of the sun, is something that is incredibly generous, because the sun doesn't think, oh, I'm only going to shine over here. The sun just shines and the radiance goes everywhere. There is a generosity to that radiance, which is something that I want to talk a little bit about today also. There is a generosity to radiance. Now, this Saturday on the solstice, we have another sort of astrological phenomenon about to occur, which is a solar eclipse. And it's actually called an annular solar eclipse coming up on Saturday. And an eclipse happens whenever one celestial body comes in front of another one from our viewpoint on the earth. And typically that is the sun and the moon. So what's going to happen this Saturday, and we won't be able to see it from the Americas, other people will be, plus it'll be in the afternoon, and it'll be daylight. I mean, it happens in the evening and the sun will be set, so we wouldn't be able to see it anyway from this part of the world. But what is going to happen is that the moon is going to be directly in front of the earth. So if the sun is here, the moon would be here and the earth is here. So as we look at the sun from the earth, the moon will be obscuring it. When the moon comes in front of the sun, there will be a ring of fire all around it, because the moon is obviously not as large as the sun, although it appears to be in the sky because the sun is so much further away. But it actually will be a little bit smaller. And so we'll see, if we could see it, we would see the shadow of the sun and then a ring of fire around it. It's called an annular solar eclipse. So what this begs us to do is to look at the shadow aspects because of this shadow eclipse that's happening. So just to be clear about what I mean by shadow, we know, well, from a psychological viewpoint, we look at shadow as the places inside ourselves, inside our psyches, inside our hearts and souls, where things are not seen, where they are hidden, that we are unconscious of, or that we are in denial of. Now, we can't say because it's in shadow that it's automatically bad, right? Sometimes we hide our beautiful gifts and we hide them away in shadow. So it's not that shadow is bad and light is good, but it does mean it's not something that is in our acute awareness. And so when we have an eclipse, it gives us an opportunity to take a look at what's going on in shadow. And the fact that this eclipse is happening on the summer solstice this year, which is the height of the solar year and the time when the magic that we do is for, the strongest magic we can possibly do to manifest things in the light of day. The fact that it's going to be eclipsed and it's asking us to look into the shadow, I don't know, I just think that's really interesting. And it gives us a particular signature and a particular way to approach the magic that we would do at this time of year. So, on the in pagan theology, we say that the Sun King, the pagan Sun King, is at his peak of power. But today, I want to tell the story of a sun goddess, the Japanese sun goddess from the Shinto religion, which is as closely aligned with paganism in Asia as paganism is here in the West. The Shinto sun goddess Amaterasu, and her name literally means light from the heavens. And so this is her story. I'm going to keep checking my notes to make sure that I stay on track and I give all the points that I want to make sure to relay. So, as with most creation mythology, it always begins where there was some creator or some force, like it's the mystery we've been chasing forever. Like, how did it all begin? We may never know. I mean, we know there was a big bang, but what caused the big bang? Like, what is it that started life? That's the mystery we'll probably chase forever and forever. And in this creation myth, there was the great creator who had what became the parents of three children. And so the parents' name are Izanagi and Izanami. And they are the parents of the three children, the eldest of which is Amaterasu, who is the sun goddess, and then her brother, Tsukuyomi, who was the moon god, and then the youngest brother, Susanoo, of the sea. So it's interesting too, because in many, many cultures, in most cultures on this beautiful Gaia globe, the sun is perceived as a masculine principle and is often seen as a god, and the moon is often seen as a goddess. But in this particular creation myth, the sun is a goddess. So we're going to follow her today and learn her story. So three children. And so what happens is that there becomes this long-standing rivalry from Susanoo, the youngest brother, who is the god of the sea, the oceans of the planet. And he resents his elder sister's right to rule. He resents that she is the sun goddess that everyone worships and loves. Perhaps he feels jealous that, the majority of his powers are kind of hidden and underneath the ocean. I don't really quite understand that because, the ocean is incredible and it's quite deep and all life emerged from there on the planet. So I don't know why it wasn't enough for him, but it wasn't enough for him. And he, all along their lives, questioned Amaterasu's right to rule. He questioned her power, and he was like a dog with a bone. He couldn't let it go. He couldn't accept his own powers. He just wanted hers. And if he couldn't have her power, then he wanted to do something to take it away from her. He was a malcontent. And over time, he just questioned it openly again and again and again. And eventually, his arrogance about how he was better and should be the sun god and not Amaterasu, led his father, Izanagi, to banish him. It's like, well, if you don't like it here and you don't like how this is going, you are free to leave. And not only are you free to leave, but you must go. You are banished here. We have no more tolerance for the discord that you are creating. Before Susanoo left, he went to bid his sister goodbye. And Amaterasu was a little suspicious of this, like, oh, wait a minute. You have a problem with me our whole life long, and now that you're banished, you want to come to say goodbye. So she kind of approached him, with a little bit of suspicion and a little bit of wariness. But he proposed a challenge to prove his sincerity, that he truly wanted just to say goodbye before he left. And so, because Amaterasu is the sun goddess whose radiance is generous, she accepted this challenge. And each of them took an object that belonged to the other. So this is like, okay, you have something of mine, I'll take something of yours. So we're kind of even and fair here. And she gave him a jewel from her necklace, and he gave her a sword. And from these two objects, they both birthed deities. Amaterasu birthed 3 female deities from Susanu's sword, and he birthed 5 male deities from her necklace. And Amaterasu claimed that since the gods birthed from her necklace would really be hers because they were from her object. And so she wins the challenge, which indicates that Susanu was really not sincere in wanting to say goodbye, that he was rigging this somehow so that he could once again try to best her. Well, Susanu was not happy with losing this challenge at all. And so in his defeat, he had a terrible temper tantrum and he went on a rampage and he destroyed as much as he could. And wherever he found anything good and true and beautiful, he went to destroy it, including Amaterasu's rice fields and the rice paddies. And he just wreaked havoc on heaven and earth. But it was when he finally, and then there's one story where he flays open one of her favorite ponies and he throws it at the harp and breaks this beautiful, cherished, precious harp. But it's when he actually kills one of her beloved attendants that Amaterasu can't take it any longer. And she decides, okay, he was banished. He's not leaving. Not only is he not leaving, but he's wreaking havoc. And now he's killed a beloved of mine. He's not going, I am. And she withdraws and she goes and she hides in a cave. Her fury and her grief bring her inside this cave. And of course, with her goes the light. And so now the earth is plunged in darkness. And no matter how much her family and these lesser gods and goddesses keep begging for her to come back and begging for her to come back, she won't. She doesn't think she can. She is engulfed in her deep sorrow and rage and stays within the cave. And she stays there for a long time, like up to a year. And so it is said the first winter occurs because of her withdrawn light. And that's another interesting thing that I find in a lot of these creation stories around the globe, or in this one in particular, because I always tell the story of the Greek Demeter Persephone. It's when Persephone is abducted or Persephone is gone and missing or has gone missing, that Demeter's grief causes her to withdraw her powers from the earth, and the first autumn and winter is born there too. So it's just so interesting when you find these correspondences all over the planet, and many of them are to explain the seasons. Anyway, so the minor gods and goddesses realize that they have to do something because they can't keep going in the darkness like this. And they realize they have to become rather clever. And they decide that the only way to rectify this situation is to try to lure her out of the cave, that they're going to have to ignite her curiosity because asking her directly to please return to them is not working. So they think about her and they think about what she likes and what she might be enticed by. And they remember in her generous radiance that she loves and gives her radiance to everyone. And they think, maybe something social would be the way to go about the festival. And they decide to do this right outside the mouth of the cave. And they bring food and they bring their instruments and they start this huge party. And they start cooking the food, and Amaterasu can smell something delicious cooking outside, and it catches her attention. And then they start playing the instruments, and she starts to hear the music. And so she does become curious and wants to know what is going on out there. And she draws close to the mouth of the cave. And when they begin to see her at the mouth of the cave, they hold up an 8-sided mirror. And Amaterasu sees her own light reflected in the mirror. And she becomes fascinated by it. And she draws closer to it and eventually exits the cave and returns. And of course, there is a great celebration, and everyone rejoices that she has returned and the light has returned. And what happens after that, of course, is that Susanoo is indeed banished, and everybody lives happily ever after. What I find interesting about this is it says, kind of like as an afterthought in some of the research that I did to learn about this story, that later, excuse me, later, Amaterasu and Susanoo reconcile. And they reconcile because Amaterasu's generous radiance falls on Susanoo as well. And it reminds me of the beautiful lines that the Persian poet Hafiz said, which is, even after all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Look what happens with a love like that. It lights the whole sky. So there's this beautiful forgiveness that happens because Amaterasu, in her generous radiance, she's not holding chips, she allows herself to forgive. And so what happens then is Susanoo gives her with the sword. And then a kind of interesting thing, the sacred mirror, the sword, and the jewel become the three imperial regalia of Japan. And it is said that Amaterasu's grandson became the first emperor of Japan, establishing the divine right of emperors from that family line thereafter. So that's pretty much the story of Amaterasu, or at least that's what we learn. And what I love about this story, there's a few things I want to point out that I love about this story. And the first is that it shows us what can happen when we are challenged, when we feel betrayed, or when we are somehow wounded. And that is not just Amaterasu. Like, for some reason, Susanoo felt betrayed by his parents because he was given the ocean instead of the sun. And so he becomes arrogant and he becomes destructive and he throws tantrums. Amaterasu, in her fury and sorrow over what happens here, she withdraws. And so it shows us what can happen when we are wounded or we feel betrayed or we are challenged beyond what we can somehow manage. And we withdraw and we leave a situation and we hide our light. We kind of like cut it off from our world and we withdraw. It also shows us that so often we are caught up in our own feelings that we think only our feelings matter, like Susanoo, right? His upset was so upsetting to him. He could so not manage this that he let everyone else know that this was not okay and caused all that destruction. And Amaterasu, just in her sorrow, withdrew into this cave. She didn't think that anyone would notice. She didn't think that anyone would miss her. She was all caught up in her own sorrow. And so that's also what happens when we experience these type of things. We are caught up in our own feelings and we forget how they affect other people around us. It also shows us what happens when we hide our light. Right? We look at that as the metaphor of the harsh and the bitterness and the difficulty of winter. But really, it just means that when we withhold our light, there is that much less light in the world, and we need the light in the world. It shows us that sometimes to rectify a situation, we must become very clever. We must think outside the box. If the way we're trying to solve for something or heal something or manifest something in a certain way, if we keep trying the same way over and over and it's not working, we have to become clever. We have to try a different approach. We have to come at it from a different angle. It shows us that we need others to hold up a mirror for us to truly see ourselves. We don't always see ourselves. Amaterasu fled into the cave because she was sad and she was furious. She didn't think, I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home. She didn't really think about how that was going to affect anyone else. I think if you're the sun, you probably just have sunness going on. Like you don't know, oh, others are benefiting from this light. So sometimes we need to see ourselves, and we don't often see ourselves. Rarely do we see the truth of who we are. And of course, our culture tells us not to become egotistical and arrogant and conceited. So even if we have an idea of our light, we try to hide it so that we appear humble. So we need others to hold up the mirror so we can see ourselves. And that is not only to see how wonderful we are, but sometimes we need people to hold up the mirror so we can see how not so wonderful we are. That mirror shows us the good, the bad, and the ugly. This metaphor of this mirror, oh, and I think it's interesting too that it's an 8-sided mirror. Now, this is me just pulling a correspondence because there are 8 Sabbats on the wheel of the year, and she's a sun goddess, so I kind of pulled that together. But this mirror will show us who we are and what we are, and also to help us see the world that we have created, to help us see how our light has affected others and has been a part of how the world is happening. And we often forget that. When we're wounded, when we're upset, when we feel betrayed, we feel like we can just withdraw ourselves and it won't matter. But of course it does. So the mirror shows us, no, we're still a part of this. And while we're here, we need to be engaged. We need to see our light. We need to be drawn by our own light. You know, Amaterasu, it says, she saw her reflection in the mirror and became fascinated with the light. And we could look at that sentence and say, well, doesn't she think she's all that, you know? But we can also look at it and we say, wow, what would happen if we became so fascinated with our own light that we could do nothing but pour it forth in radiant generosity? This is how we bring our light back to the world. We need to cultivate our light. We need to protect our light. And we need the energy of this generous radiance in times like these, the times that we are experiencing now, where so much is happening all at once and we're not resolving it like that. What happens in times like these is that the times become very unstable. I believe that this instability we are experiencing is part of a larger strategy, but one way or another, we know that the first thing happens is that it becomes unstable. And when we feel unstable, or when things around us become unstable, we begin to feel unsafe. When we do not feel safe, that erodes our trust. Without trust, there goes honor. And without honor, there can be no empathy. And without empathy, the whole thing crumbles. That's the progression. But we are after a different kind of crumbling. We're after the crumbling of inequality. We are after the crumbling of white supremacy. We are after the crumbling of the power over constructs that seek to suppress others. So this is how this can work. Instability can bring opportunity. Now, instability can also make us feel unsafe because we are little homing pigeons who like things to be the same, humans, despite knowing that the world is going to change, and that is one of the constants that is irrefutable. We don't like change. We don't like to change. We like to be comfortable. We like to have things the way we want it, and then we want it to stay exactly that way. But instability is going to happen. And when it happens, it gives us an opportunity, because if we're doing the same thing over and over, the same way, we will just, or if things remain stable, we'll just keep going on the way we've always been. When something gets interrupted, disrupted, or becomes unstable, that provides an opportunity for us to do something different. So it can bring opportunity, and that opportunity can inspire our courage. Oh, wow, this isn't working this way anymore. What else can we do? I better check into my heart to see what else we can do here and find my courage to take that action. With that courage, it gives us a chance to act in accordance with our true highest ideals. When we are in accordance with our true highest ideals, that inherently amps up our empathy. It's just a natural progression. The highest ideals will ensure empathy for others. And with empathy, we can create a new society that is based on these beautiful qualities. So while the instability makes us uncomfortable, and makes us question our safety. It actually is an opportunity, and we can look at, okay, if things are crumbling, what do we want to crumble? Let's allow those things that are unsavory to crumble, rather than let the instability make us so fearful that we withdraw and we no longer participate in creating something different than what is causing the instability to begin with. And round we go. So let's have a practice at how we can do that. So if you would, take a moment now, close your eyes and go within, wherever it is you are, get as comfortable as you can, and take a nice, deep, deep breath. And then reconnect to your grounding cord that you set down at the beginning of the service. Find your roots deep into the earth. Feel yourself become very grounded, very centered. Now bring your attention up to your third eye in the center of your forehead. Imagine it like an actual eye, just like your other two. Go ahead and open it up in your imagination and look out into your imagination to find that you are the sun. You are that fiery, bright star in the heavens, the center of our galaxy. And whether you think of yourself as the pagan sun king in all his glory, or as Amaterasu in all her glory, or it's simply you yourself as you are right now, glorious you are. So let's take a moment now to feel the action of our radiance. Let's feel how our golden light emanates from our core, moving outward. Just imagine yourself emanating the glorious love light of the sun that you are. Good. Now keep emanating and keep radiating that glorious light. And while you do, bring to mind your highest ideal for the world, and not just for yourself, although that can't help but be included because you're in the world too, but for the highest good of all. So think big, think beyond just yourself. Imagine a world that is all about equality, fairness, justice. Imagine a world we're not afraid of each other, where our differences are celebrated, where we don't believe others have to think like us, believe like us, look like us, talk like us, where the diversity of people in the world is perceived as beautiful as the diversity as nature. All of it is perfect, as we are. All of it is necessary, all of it valued. So imagine that highest ideal now. Good. Now imagine that this ideal radiates outward. This loving acceptance of all that is emanates from you, glowing, shining, warm, and strong. And it reaches everywhere, including deeply into your own awareness, your own heart and soul, your own actions. You are the love light of the sun, and your love is beaming. So stay with that for a moment. See your golden rays reaching effortlessly and ever outward. And breathe deeply, taking all of that light into every cell of your body. And then gently let that image fade. And when you feel ready, open your eyes and come back here. That's a good one to remember, a good one to practice. Imagine yourself as the sun, radiating generosity and love. What a good practice that is. You know, in order to manifest this ideal, this highest good of all, we need to do repair work. Clearly, what is rising now into everyone's awareness, unless you are living under a rock, you don't know what's going on. I don't think that's anybody watching this right now. We need to educate ourselves. We need to educate ourselves about what is going on. I'm talking specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement. And I personally, at Gaia's Temple as an institution, are in full support of the Black Lives Matter movement. And the first step in that support is educating ourselves, and so that we can shift our consciousness and therefore shift the world. That's what we want to do. The repair work comes by educating yourself. And I'll just speak about my own personal experience recently, which is that, you know, as a privileged white woman, examining my white privilege is really difficult and it's uncomfortable. And I notice that my impetus is to try to do something, to change it, to correct it, to make it better so that I can feel better. And while I do believe that our actions in the world are everything, jumping to some quick solution or something to do to make myself feel better is really not the answer. Allowing myself, learning, letting myself sit with what is uncomfortable as my consciousness shifts is the work that needs to be done. And that's not the only work that needs to be done. We need to be doing all the things we're doing, protesting and donating, and all the things that we need to be doing. But it happens here and it happens here. And that doesn't happen without first examining where we are to begin with and how we got here. Now, I was plunged into this horrible place of guilt, and still visit there pretty often as I examine my white privilege. And some dear friends of mine have reminded me that, and I say this also, that, you know, guilt never serves anybody or anything. Guilt, in fact, many times will just kind of keep you stuck in a certain place, and it's not always the best motivator. If it were, we probably wouldn't do whatever it is that makes us guilty to begin with. So my friends have reminded me that, you know, we in this generation, we did not create this system that is so biased against people of color, but we benefit from it. And without our conscious awareness, we have been participating in it. And so recognizing how we have been participating in it is the very first step in understanding how we can stop participating in it and stop giving it the energy so that it won't continue. It's difficult work, but the repair work is really, it's necessary. It's not really necessary. It is necessary. We are not going to be able to shift and change this. So while getting in touch with our light, emanating our light, practicing generosity, all of these things are magnificent. It's not the only thing. Sitting here, radiating light in a meditation is a great part of what must be done, but it's not the only thing that must be done. We must educate ourselves. We must shift our consciousness, and that's how we're going to change the world. The other thing I want to say about this is, you know, I'll have conversations with people and they'll say, well, yeah, that ideal sounds fantastic, you know, but on a practical level, I mean, how is that going to happen? And I say, well, it's not, the ideal is not happening on a practical level because we're not practicing our ideals. It becomes practical because we're putting it into practice. So if we keep saying, well, that's just too beautiful and I don't believe it can really happen, guess what? It's not going to. But the more of us who actually behave and act in accordance with our ideals for the highest good of all, that's how we're going to get it there. So just because it's idyllic doesn't make it frivolous or impossible. It makes us the thing to strive for. We are spiritual beings and we have critical thinking skills. I think it's really important for us to learn how to think for ourselves. And by that, I don't mean that we don't remain informed and that we don't stay apprised of what's happening in the world. And there are people who are experts in certain fields and we want to know what they think about it. And this is how we continue to learn. But if we just accept everything that goes by on our Facebook feed as truth, there's a danger in that. We must learn our own critical thinking skills. We must check it against our own guts and our own hearts and souls and see how we want to respond to what is happening in the world. We have the ability to choose how we're going to act. It is very easy to blame the circumstances and say, well, I can't do that because this is happening or that's happening. But really, the choice about how we act and how we respond always resides with the self. The last thing that I want to say today in this service is, I talk about the highest good of all a lot. And it's such a beautiful phrase. Oh, the highest good of all. We want everything for the highest good of all. And we do. And it is a beautiful phrase. And the highest good of all, where that rubber often meets the road, is not always fun. Because sometimes it means that you don't get what you want. Sometimes it means that you don't get your preferences. And sometimes it means that your needs won't be met because somebody else's needs are more important or are more dire than yours. And so we have to learn to be okay with not always getting everything we want, thinking that that really is the highest good of all. Like when I'm happy and my needs are met, then it's fine for everyone. No, we have to look who are the underprivileged, the ones who are not getting the resources, the ones who are not getting the help. We have to look at those who are having less than we have. And in the highest good of all, that means they come first. That's how it becomes the highest good of all, because all is not a selfish thing. So there you have it. So my friends, as the height of the solar year approaches, may we rise to our highest good. May we be equal to the light that shines in the heavens, the love light of the sun. May our love be equally as glorious, as radiant, and as strong. And may our love light reach deeply within as well as far and wide, inspiring us to see and strengthen the light in everyone and to work for liberty and justice for all. Blessed be. So when we gather in person, this is when we open the floor for our individual prayers. If people just sort of speak up and we all respond in kind on the blessed be. I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. I do see that there's a live stream. Oh, here are all the people saying hello. Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hello, hello, hello. So glad you're here. Perhaps I will get so practiced at this that I will be able to take your prayers over the live stream in the future. I'll put that in my thinking cap and figure out a way to do that. But another thing that we do in Gaia's Temple, another opportunity, is to offer prayers as a memorial, and we have one today. And so that goes like this. We have a memorial today for Terrence Stephen Mullins, who is the brother of Anthea Vining, who was on our board of directors for Gaia's Temple for 2 years a while back and has been a loyal member of Gaia's Temple. Her brother just recently passed this past week. He was born on November 15th, 1975, and he died on June 11th, 2020. He was born in South Bend, Washington, to Rita Hadlock. He was the father of Shauna Mullins of Olympia and Terrence Jr., who resides in Michigan. And Anthea's prayer is that the pain he experienced in this lifetime be transformed into joy and light in his next phase. So what I'm going to ask all of us to do is just take a moment of silence in honor of Terrence Stephen Mullins. Let's do that now. Rest in peace, Terrence, and blessed be. So I'm going to remember to, well, actually now what happens is typically at Gaia's Temple, this is where we would pass the love offering baskets. Of course, I can't do that over cyberspace, but there are a few things that I want to say about this. The first is I want to thank each and every one of you who have continued to fulfill your pledge, who have donated. The way to donate is to go to the Gaia's Temple website, and I tried to put a little something, or we're working on getting a little link that you can just click on your YouTube and go directly to our website. We can't do that on a live stream, excuse me, for some reason, so we're working on that. But what you could do if you choose to donate is to go to the Gaia's Temple website, www.gaiastemple.org. There's a donate button there, and that's how you can contribute to us to sustain this ministry. Thank you so much. Every little bit counts. Many nonprofits have really taken the hit during this time, and Gaia's Temple is no exception. And we are sustained completely by those who partake of our teachings. So if you feel served by this message today, by this service, we ask that you donate and to please do that as generously as possible. Thank you so much. And the other thing is that Gaia's Temple, we tithe 10% of what comes into our love offering baskets at the service to other nonprofit organizations that are in alignment with our mission and vision and values. And today we are tithing to the Black Lives Matter Seattle King County organization, which is a grassroots volunteer-run social justice nonprofit focused on the empowerment and liberation of Blacks and other people of color through advocacy and direct action. So we tithe 10% of what comes in our love offering baskets at the service. And so what we'll do is all of the money that is dated received through our PayPal account on our website that comes in today, we will look at that total number and we will tithe 10% to Black Lives Matter Seattle King County. Thank you in advance for your generous donations. So now we're going to check our notes. Aha, my closing thought. I have a beautiful, gorgeous poem today for the closing thought before we release the directions and take our circle down. And this poem was written by Julia Myers. And it goes like this. The old threads are unraveling. Get your needles ready. We're stitching a new quilt of humanity. Bring your old t-shirts, worn out jeans, scarves, antique gowns, aprons, old pockets of plenty who have held earth's treasures, stones, feathers, leaves, love notes on paper. Each stitch, a mindful meditation. Each piece of material, a story. The more color, the better, so call in the tribes. Threads of browns, whites, reds, oranges. People of all nations, start stitching. Let's recycle the hate, the abuse, the fear, the judgment. Turn it over, wash it clean, wring it out to dry. It's a revolution of recycled wares. Threads of greens, blues, purples, colorful threads of peace, kindness, respect, compassion are being stitched from one continent to the next, over forests, oceans, mountains. The work is hard. Your fingers may bleed. but each cloth stitched together brings together community, a world, our future world, under one colorful quilt, the new quilt of humanity. Blessed be. All right, so we're going to sing out the directions and bring our circle down, and we'll call it a service. And so to the spirits of the earth and the powers that reside in the north, we say, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. I realize I held up the fire while I called the north, so I'll just lift that. That was north. Okay, and now we're going to go to the west. We're going Widdershins now, and to the waters we sing. Go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And now to the south in the element of fire, we sing. Go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And to the spirit of the east and the powers of air, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. And to the spirits of the center and the powers that connect us all, go if you must, stay if you will, within or without, we remain with you still. So before I sign off, I'll ask you once more, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Please join us for our Letha celebration this Saturday night at 7 p.m. I'm going to have my trusty spirit sisters, Reverend Karina and Noemi, here with me, and we're going to bring you the best, beautiful magic we possibly can over cyberspace. Thank you so much. Stay well, and blessed be.